Hi everyone, my name is Deanna Gokenauer. My topic was TP8, the Teacher Performance Expectation, English Language Development in relation to subject-specific pedagogy. So the key characteristics of TP8 are beginning teachers know and can apply pedagogical theories, principles, and instructional strategies for comprehensive instruction of students whose first language is English, they're English learners, or standard English learners. They also know and can apply theories, principles, and instructional strategies for English language development, leading to academic literacy in English in relation to the subject-specific content area. Beginning teachers are familiar with the philosophy, design, goals, and characters of programming for English language development, including all domains: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. I would like to focus specifically on supporting language development. So the article I chose is from Community Plaything's website, and the article focused specifically on building relationships in early childhood classrooms. So they start out with some facts at the beginning of their article or webpage, and they say that many important developmental tasks are tied to the children's ability to access and use language. So this is why it's a category in the TPE system, because it's critical for students to be able to use language, especially in the American education system, and therefore teachers should be accountable for putting extra emphasis on this learning strategy. It also shows that children who are behind in English compared to their peers know 3 million fewer words than their compared students. So the thesis of this article that I looked at is that mere exposure isn't enough. Your relationship with children is the foundation for language learning. The article talks about 3 specific types of language: expressive, receptive, and pragmatic. Expressive language are the words children use when they talk, so their everyday version. It's not where they should be or how they hear others talk, it's the specific words that that child uses. Receptive language are the words that children can understand, even though they may or may not use them when they speak. So you could tell a child something and he might be able to nod and then do that, but they cannot respond. Pragmatic language is the language used in social settings. So any type of language that peers communicate with, or like when you go to a grocery store, the clerk and you would be using that type of language, you and your parents. Anything used in any type of social setting is pragmatic language. These are the different types of language stages. Teachers can use expressive, receptive, and pragmatic language to determine where the student is at. So it's an effective strategy to understand what level the students are, and therefore they can be assessed to build the skills they need from there. The article says the first step to helping kids develop language is using books to build vocabulary. Young kids love to hear repetition, so a helpful strategy is to read a book over and over again. You can encourage parents to do the same at home, even with the same books. This helps children begin to understand the rhythms of language and absorb the structure of sentences and storytelling. With the repetition, they would get used to the same type of sentence structure and what words should go where in the sentence, along with very simple plot lines, or just naming characters or naming other animals. They can fully grow their vocabulary by just reading books over and over again. As the students get a bit older, it benefits them to hear and read stories with a wide variety of vocabulary, a wide variety of sentence structure, and a wide variety of plots. Anyone that is not at the very beginning stage, but they know a little bit of vocabulary, it's beneficial to begin older or more advanced books. As for anyone beginning a language, no matter what age you are, learning takes time, and patience is definitely key when working with students developing any type of second language. In the modern world of education, it's proven that student collaboration is beneficial in all subjects of learning. So stopping while reading and having the children discuss with one another about their favorite part, or summarizing the page that you just read, help grasp a deeper understanding, and then the children can gain not only the vocabulary, but they might be able to gain sentence structure and then comprehensive skills, specifically within the language. The second step to language development is incorporate indirect language stimulation techniques. Developed by speech and language pathologists, these techniques focus on the language you use as you interact with children. The first technique is description. To use this simple strategy, narrate or describe what's going on in the child's world. Specifically, you can start telling the child what they're doing. So for example, if you see the child playing, you can say, "You are creating a very tall tower." So very tall tower are descriptions for what they're doing so they can better understand what those mean. Another example is pointing out exactly what they're eating. Instead of saying, "Oh, that looks yummy," to the child, you could use specific words and say, "You have broccoli, pasta, and strawberries on your plate. How good," or "how yummy." This allows kids to build the vocabulary by seeing the exact descriptions you are telling them. The second technique is self-talk. Self-talk focuses on the teacher's actions. So instead of describing what the child's doing, the teacher is now describing what the teacher's doing. So for example, while the teacher completes a task, they can talk about it out loud. Instead of being silent or asking the students to be silent during transition periods, you could say, "I am erasing the whiteboard so we can start a new lesson." That way they understand the concept of erasing or start or lesson. They could begin to understand those words. Another example is, "I am clearing my table because it's almost time for snacks." So they understand what snack time is. They probably know what a table is, but now they can start to understand clearing table, and then you're doing things for a specific reason. This allows them to understand and have great visual of the words you are using. Combined with repetition, this is a powerful strategy in the language development. The final step this article covers is support second language learning and be aware of the children's home culture. And they say to remember that culture, family, and language are closely linked. When a child and their parent enters the classroom, you can greet them in both languages. For example, if you know that the child knows Spanish and primarily uses that language at home, when they enter the classroom, you could say, "Hola, ¿cómo estás?" "Good morning," "Welcome," or "How are you?" So you're using the same greetings or the same words in their primary language, and then you're repeating it in English so they can start to understand that both languages mean the same thing. Some teachers find it helpful to label their toy bins and other organizational areas of their classroom with both languages as well. So now both languages are present in the entire classroom, and students can start to understand that what they know as one word, now they can recognize in English as well. So they see both words side by side in both languages, and they can start to make that connection in their head. Hopefully, by incorporating multiple languages in the classroom, if you have a lot of second language learners, then this makes them feel more at home too, with a lot of their primary language around the room. Another way to help second language learners in your classroom is to use pictures, labels, objects, and real events to link the language the child knows that he or she is learning. So this helps every child in the room, not just language learners, so you could benefit other students as well by making real life connections. If the child is struggling, a great way is to communicate with the parents. Ask the parents about their culture and try to make the child more comfortable in school. Allow them to bring a small toy, or some children need a blanket in their first few years, as long as it isn't distracting. They can keep that with them and make them feel more comfortable as they are learning. Be patient and reassuring with every child, because 1 in 5 children in the US have a primary language at home that's different than English. These methods teachers should be implementing in their classrooms from now on, as 1 in 5 children in the US is a large number that the children just don't know what the teacher is saying, so they need to be taught in a much different way than American education has done in the past. A great way to implement technology in the classroom with English language learners is to have the teacher pre-record reading or whatever the subject is for that day, and then have the children watch it and react to it. So, for example, if the teacher is reading a book and the line in the book says, "The mom knocked on her daughter's door," the kids could then knock on the table, and this would be a great way for them to understand not only the context of the story, but also how it relates to them and how they can make those actions. Or another example, if the book says the monster stomped all around the room, the kids can just stomp in their seats with their feet. It's a good way to test where the English is at for the teachers, as well as they obviously know what was pre-recorded, and if the child is not making those actions where the book says to, then you can tell that they're not understanding.